In the great golden hall of the Zandari Empire, lights sparkled from the high ceiling. Powerful alien leaders sat in their shining robes, laughing and drinking as they looked at the human guest. Commander Rian stood tall among them, dressed in his simple Earth uniform, his face calm, but his eyes sharp. He was the first human to be invited to the Zandari's ancient celebration, a festival of peace, but not everyone wanted peace. High Lord Merzek, the Emperor's cousin, smirked as he stood and clapped his hands. A small cage was rolled into the center of the hall. Inside, it sat a young alien girl, thin, quiet. With silver blue skin and glowing purple eyes, she looked no older than 20. Her head bowed, her clothes torn and dirty. "She is a gift for our human guest," Merzak said loudly, making the crowd laugh harder. A rare pet for the brave commander, worthless of course, but amusing. The girl didn't move, didn't speak. Her chains clinked softly as she was pushed forward on her knees. Rian looked at her carefully, his jaw tight. He could feel the weight of the room. Every eye watching him, waiting for his reaction. He walked forward, slowly, kneeling in front of the girl. She didn't look up. He reached out and gently touched the chain around her wrist. "Does she have a name?" he asked quietly. Merzak laughed again. "Names are for real people, human, not for trash like her." Rian said nothing. He stood, nodded once, and said, "Then I accept this gift." The crowd roared with laughter, some clapping, others shaking their heads at the strange human. To them, it was a joke that worked perfectly. That night, back on his personal ship, Rian sat in silence across from the girl. He had removed her chains, given her clean clothes and food. Still, she said nothing. She only looked at him with large, quiet eyes. He didn't push her. He simply waited, offering warmth and safety without questions. Then, as he was turning off the lights to let her sleep, she whispered something. "Rian," she said, her voice small but clear. He turned back, shocked. "You know my name?" She nodded, slowly, her fingers gripping the edge of the blanket. "They said you would be kind," she said, her voice trembling. "I listened to the guards. I hoped they were right." Rian sat back down, watching her closely. "What's your name?" he asked softly. She hesitated, shaking her head. "I don't remember. I don't think I ever had one." He felt a strange pain in his chest, a tightness he hadn't felt in years. This girl, whoever she was, wasn't just a joke or a servant. There was something different about her, something hidden deep behind those glowing eyes. "Do you know why they gave you to me?" She nodded. "Again, to insult you," she said simply. "To make you look weak. And you?" he asked. "What do you think?" She looked up at him for the first time, fully. "I think they don't know what I am." Rian felt a chill run down his spine. That answer wasn't what he expected. She wasn't just repeating things like a trained servant. She understood deeply. Too deeply for someone who had been treated like nothing. "You can stay here," Rian said quietly. "You're safe now." She looked at him, her face unsure. "No chains?" She asked. "No chains." He replied, "No cage." "No cage." She bit her lip, and for the first time, he saw something strange, a flicker of emotion too strong for someone broken. Was it hope, or something more? That night, as Rian sat outside her room, thinking about what just happened, he checked her ID band. It had no real data, just a serial number. ZKO197. No family, no origin, no records, just emptiness. And yet, she had known his name, spoken it with trust. She had something inside her, a spark that didn't match her story. Rian didn't believe in fate. But tonight, something had changed. The girl was not just a gift, not just a joke. She was a mystery. And now, she was his responsibility, and deep inside the quiet shadows of the ship, the girl lay awake, not asleep, not afraid, but thinking, For the first time in her life, she was not in a cage. And the man who held her fate in his hands had called her safe. She whispered into the darkness, "Rian," then. A pause, and softer. "Thank you." The next morning, Rian stood quietly outside the girl's room, holding 2 cups of warm broth. He expected her to still be asleep, but when he opened the door, she was already standing by the window. She was wearing the clothes he gave her. Though they hung loosely on her small frame, her eyes were watching the stars outside, as if searching for something far away. "You're awake early," Rian said, handing her the broth. She nodded and took it with both hands. "I don't sleep much," she replied softly. "Too many dreams." "What kind of dreams?" he asked, sitting across from her. Her fingers tightened around the cup. "Fire, running, voices, yelling," she whispered. "But also a name." "What name?" She looked at him with hesitation, then said, "Lyra." Rian tilted his head. "Is that your name?" "I don't know," she answered, "but I hear it over and over, every night." Rian noted it down in his mind. Lyra. He would use that name for now. It was better than calling her a number or girl. Later that day, Rian ran her blood sample through the ship's scanner. He didn't expect much, just a standard genetic match for her species. But the screen flashed red, then blinked, then paused. "Unknown markers," the computer said. "Warning, human genetic patterns detected." Rian froze. He scanned again and again, each time the same result. She wasn't fully alien. There was human DNA in her ancient, rare, and locked deep in her cells, mixed with something else entirely. Something enhanced. He called her into the lab. "Lyra," he said, "I need to ask you something strange." She looked at the machines with quiet curiosity. "Have you ever seen anyone like you?" She shook her head. "No. They said I was weak, smaller than the others. They. The caretakers. The ones who raised us in the outer zone. Us. There were others like me, but they vanished. One by one," she said, her voice flat. "They said we weren't worth feeding." Rian felt anger rising in his chest. What kind of place raised children only to throw them away? He realized then she might be the last of something the galaxy tried to erase. She sat in the chair beside the scanner and looked at the blood results. "I don't understand what this means," she said. "It means you're not what they think," Rian answered. "Not a servant, not a slave, and definitely not a joke." She looked at him, her eyes wide. "No one ever said that before." She whispered, "Then let it be the first." Rian said with a smile, "You're something special, Lyra." That night, Lyra walked through the halls of the ship in silence. She found the training room and touched the control panel. Old memories stirred in her mind, positions, movements, codes, without fully knowing why. She started practicing hand-to-hand moves, fast, sharp, controlled. Like a trained fighter, not a fragile girl. Rian watched from the shadows. Stunned, she moved like a soldier. No better than one. He stepped forward, and she stopped. "Immediately, you saw?" she asked, embarrassed. "Yes," he replied. "Where did you learn that?" "I don't know," she said. "It just comes to me like a memory I can't explain." Rian walked closer. "You're not just remembering," he said. "You've been trained, probably from birth." "But I don't remember being trained," she replied. "Just flashes, muscle movement, drills in my sleep." He looked at her seriously. "Lyra, do you want to find out who you really are?" She nodded slowly. "More than anything. Then we'll do it together," he promised. "But you must understand, you are what I think you are. Someone will try to take you back." She held her breath, then said, "Then I won't go back, not ever." The next day, Rian contacted his friend on Earth, Dr. Halden, a genetic expert. He sent Lyra's blood data with a secure code. An hour later, Halden replied, his voice tense. "Rian, where did you get this girl?" Rian's heart beat faster. "Why?" "Because this code. This genetic pattern matches something from Earth's Gen Prime project. Rion's breath caught. Gen Prime had been shut down over 150 years ago. It was an illegal experiment to create hybrids human and alien. The goal had been to make beings that could survive in any world. Speak any language, adapt to any culture. But the program was destroyed after the Ethics Council called it a crime against nature. All test subjects were said to be removed. But one had survived, and she had been given to him as a joke. Rion looked at Lyra, who was watching him quietly. From across the room, he now knew she wasn't just someone with a forgotten name. She was a living secret, a walking weapon, a key to something long buried, and she had chosen to trust him. "I'm not letting them take her," Rion whispered. To himself, no matter what the Empire or Earth said, Lyra was not going to be lost again, not while he still breathed. The hum of the ship's engines filled the silence between them. Lyra sat in the control chair beside Rion, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Rion didn't speak for a while, only stared at the screen showing her blood results again. No matter how many times he checked, the truth stayed the same. Lyra's DNA carried something ancient, something human, but not just human. "It's not normal," he finally said, turning to her. "You're part of something the galaxy buried a long time ago." She looked at him with wide eyes, waiting. "Not understanding, you were made," he continued, "not born like others, at least not in the usual way." Her lips parted slightly, her voice trembling. "You mean I'm not? Not real." "You're real, Lyra," he said quickly, reaching for her hand. "You're more real than most people, but your blood holds secrets people would kill for." She looked down at her palm, then back at him. "What kind of secrets?" Rion took a deep breath and pointed at the genetic markers on the screen. "This one here," he said. "It matches a code from an old Earth experiment called Gen Prime. It was shut down because it was too dangerous, too." Powerful Lyra frowned, "And I'm from that." "I think you are the last one," he said quietly. "Maybe the only one left alive." She didn't speak, only looked at the screen again. There was pain in her eyes, but also something else, strength. Like she was finally seeing the puzzle. Pieces of her life fall into place. "I don't want to be a weapon," she whispered. "You're not," Rion said firmly. "You're a person, not a project." They sat in silence again, the truth heavy between them. Rion knew what had to come next. He couldn't protect her in the open, not anymore. Too many eyes were watching now. Too many systems had been alerted. He stood, pacing, thinking fast. "There's one place," he said. "An old science base on Ganaru 7. It was used by early human explorers to store secret data deep under the ice. Is it safe?" Lyra asked. "No," Rion answered, "but it's hidden. And if there's anything left from Gen Prim, it will be there." She nodded. Standing with him, "Then let's go." The trip took 2 days through deep space routes. They passed quiet nebulae, forgotten satellites, and abandoned space stations. Every time a ship appeared on radar, Rion changed course. Whoever was tracking them wasn't giving up easily on the third night. Lyra walked into the cockpit holding an old Earth book she found in Rion's storage. She held it close, as if the pages were made of gold. "Stories," she said softly. "I never read them before. They were banned where I came from. What do you think?" Rion asked, smiling a little. "I think they make me feel like I belong somewhere," she replied. "Like maybe I'm not the only one searching for a place in the stars the next morning." Ganaru 7 came into view cold, covered in white mist. The surface was all ice, cracked and shining under a pale sun. They landed near a mountain of frozen rock, where a hidden hatch was buried beneath the snow. Rion and Lyra descended into the old research bunker, their boots crunching on metal and ice. The air smelled like rust and time. Frozen wires hung from the ceilings, and the halls were dark, except for their flashlights. Deep inside, they found a sealed door with a scanner. Rian tried to override it with old codes, but nothing worked. Then, without a word, Lyra stepped forward and placed her hand on the panel. The scanner blinked green, and the door slid open with a hiss. Rian stared at her in shock. "It recognized you," he said. "It knows what I am," she whispered back, almost afraid. Inside, the room was a glowing console surrounded by old Earth machines. Screens lit up, showing data they couldn't understand. But then, a soft voice echoed from the walls. "Subject ZKO-197 detected. Welcome home." Lyra froze, her body stiff. The screen showed a hologram man, Earth scientist in a white coat. "Congratulations, if you're hearing this, then Subject ZKO-197 has survived," the recording said. "You are the final bridge between humanity and the stars." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "This is why I never fit anywhere," she said. "I wasn't meant to serve. I was meant to lead." Rian stood beside her. Unable to look away from the screen, he understood now she wasn't just rare. She was built to unite two worlds. Her DNA held the potential to change everything. Politics, war, even life itself. And if she had a child, Rian stopped at the thought. That child would carry both legacies. It would be the first true hybrid. Of human and alien origin, not by accident, but by design. Lyra turned to him, her voice shaking. "They gave me to you as a joke," she said. "But now, I carry your name. And maybe, your future too." Rian took her hand gently. "You carry more than that, Lyra," he said. "You carry hope." The cold wind blew across the icy surface of Genera 7. Rian's ship sat hidden behind a cliff of frozen stone, its engines warm but quiet inside the ship. Lyra sat wrapped in a thick blanket, staring at the ancient data they had uncovered. She wasn't shaking from cold, but from fear. Now she knew who she was. And that truth had power but also danger. "We can't stay here," Rian said, walking in with urgency in his voice. "There's a royal scout ship heading this way. It pinged our old location 2 hours ago." Lyra stood quickly, folding the blanket. "They're here for me," she said softly. "They know what I am now." Rian nodded. "Grabbing supplies and packing the files they had recovered from the underground lab. Which means we don't have time to think," he said. "Only move," as they prepared for launch. Lyra turned to him. "I don't want to hide forever," she said, "but I'm not ready to fight either. You won't fight alone." Rian replied, "Not as long as I'm here." But even as the ship lifted off and shot through the icy sky, they were already being watched, far behind them. A larger royal warship turned to follow. Inside it stood Princess Vale, sister of the Emperor, cold and fierce. She stared at the tracking signal on the screen. Her eyes sharp. "The experiment survived," she said, "and a human dares to claim it." Her second-in-command spoke nervously. "Permission to engage, Your Grace." "Not yet," she replied, her voice like ice. "Bring them back alive. The girl is worth more than an empire." Meanwhile, Rian's ship jumped to a hidden sector near the border of neutral space. There was no war here, but no law either. It was the perfect place to disappear for a little while. Lyra sat quietly, watching the stars fly past. Then she asked, "Do you regret it?" "Regret what?" Rian replied, "Accepting me," she said. "Back in that hall, when they gave me as a joke." Rian looked at her, his face firm. "I regret not knowing your name sooner," he said. She smiled faintly, and for the first time, it looked real. Later that night, Rian was working in the engine room when the lights flickered. He checked the controls. Something was wrong. Suddenly, alarms rang through the ship. "Hull breach detected," the computer said. Rian ran toward the control deck, only to find the ship already being boarded. A squad of royal guards in black armor poured in through the airlock. At their Front stood a tall woman in silver armor, Princess Vale herself. Lyra stood frozen, her eyes locked on Vale's. "You," Lyra whispered. Her voice filled with something deeper than fear recognition. Vale smiled coldly. "You remember me," she said. "I raised you, trained you, and when you became too dangerous, I gave you away." Rian stepped between them, blaster raised. "You're not taking her," he said. Vale laughed. "You think she belongs to you, human?" "She belongs to herself," he snapped back. Vale moved fast, slamming Rian against the wall with a force push from her glove. He hit the floor hard. Groaning, Lyra screamed and ran to him, shielding him with her body. "You won't hurt him," she said, her voice shaking but strong. Vale tilted her head. "Curious, why do you protect him?" "Because he gave me something you never did," Lyra said, her voice growing stronger. "A name, a choice, a future." Vale narrowed her eyes. "Then he has changed you," she said. "Good. That means you're weaker now?" Rian slowly got to his feet, blood at the edge of his mouth. "Wrong again," he said with a small smile. "She's stronger than you ever allowed her to be." Suddenly, Lyra moved, her hands forming a perfect combat stance. She remembered everything now, every drill, every move, every strike. The memories weren't dreams. They were training buried deep until the right moment, and that moment had come. She moved like lightning, striking Vale's guards before they could react. Two went down instantly. The rest hesitated. Lyra spun, ducked, and disarmed them one by one. Even Vale stepped back, shocked at her speed and power. Then Lyra stood in front of Rian again, panting. "No more cages," she said. "No more masters." Vale raised her hand to attack again, but this time, a shot rang through the hall. Rian had found his blaster and fired, hitting the royal's gauntlet and destroying it. Sparks flew, and Vale screamed in pain. She backed away, her guards dragging her out of the ship. "This isn't over," she hissed. "You carry a future that doesn't belong to you." Lyra stood tall, her face calm. "It never belonged to you either," she said. The airlock shut, and the ship powered back up. They escaped into the stars once again, this time not just running but surviving. Rian turned to her as they entered hyperspace. "Are you okay?" he asked. Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes," she whispered. "But I'm not the same girl you accepted that night." He looked at her with pride. "I know," he said. "You're becoming who you were always meant to be." The stars outside the ship shimmered like scattered diamonds. But inside, the mood was heavy. Rian sat in the pilot chair, bruises on his arms, silent but focused. Lyra sat beside him, staring at her hands that had taken down royal guards just days ago. "I didn't know I could do that," she said quietly. "You didn't do it to hurt them," Rian replied. "You did it to protect us." She nodded, but a strange guilt still sat in her heart. All her life, she had been told to be silent, to obey. Now she had fought back and won, but she didn't feel proud. She felt like something inside her had been unlocked. Something sharp. Rian opened a map on the screen. "There's one more place I think we should check," he said. "It's called the Vault of Echoes." "The what?" Lyra asked, her eyebrows rising. "It's a deep space station abandoned 100 years ago." He explained. Before it was shut down, it held some of Earth's oldest hidden tech. Some say it stored the backup files of all banned projects. Lyra leaned closer, her voice curious. "You think something about Gen Prime is there?" "I don't think," Rian said. "I hope." It took 3 days to reach the Vault of Echoes. The station floated in the dark, like a forgotten skeleton of metal and memory. Its power was low, and parts of it drifted loose. But the core was still intact, holding secrets no one had touched in decades. As they landed in the docking bay, Lyra felt a strange pull in her chest. "I've never been here," she said. but it feels like something is waiting for me inside. The station was silent, except for the hiss of air through broken vents. Lights flickered as they moved through the narrow halls. Dust floated in zero gravity like ghosts. They reached the central chamber, where a thick metal door blocked the data core. "No way around this," Rian said, opening his toolkit. But before he could start, Lyra stepped forward again. Her hand touched the panel. And once more, it turned green. The door slid open with a long hiss, and lights flickered to life. A voice echoed from the wallsfemale.com, "Ancient, welcome. Subject ZKO-197. System access granted." The room lit up with floating screens showing files, images, and genetic data. Lyra stepped inside slowly, her breath shaking. The system recognized her not as a stranger, but as its owner. Rian walked beside her. Watching the data scroll, there were files about hybrid DNA, training programs, memory implants, and something called Project Seedline. He clicked the file, and an old Earth scientist appeared as a hologram. "If you're seeing this," the man said, "then our final subject has survived. Project Seedline was our last attempt to create life that could bridge to species. Not just for survival, but for evolution." Rian looked at Lyra, who stood frozen. "You were never meant to be a weapon," he said softly. "You were meant to carry life forward." The file continued. "The subject carries stabilized hybrid DNA, designed to be passed on naturally if united with a compatible human. The child will be the first of its kind, fully stable, fully intelligent, capable of surviving on any known planet." Lyra touched the hologram gently, tears in her eyes. "All this time, I thought I was broken," she whispered. "But I was never broken." "No," Rian said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You're the future." Suddenly, the room shook, and alarms blared through the station. "Warning, unregistered ship entering orbit." Lyra's face went pale. "They found us again." Rian moved fast, shutting down the data core and pulling her out. They ran through the twisting halls of the vault, the lights flickering red now as they reached the ship. Gunfire rang out behind them. Royal troopers had boarded. Rian fired back, covering Lyra as she jumped into the pilot's seat. She took off before the docking bay could close. Engines roaring, the station shrank behind them, glowing in the dark. But now they had what they came for, in the quiet of space. Lyra stared ahead, her voice low. "You heard the file," she said. "If I ever have a child, it will be something the galaxy has never seen." Rian didn't speak right away. He looked at her with a strange mixture of awe and sorrow. "They'll hunt you forever for it," he said. "Or worse, they'll try to control you again." Lyra turned to him, her expression calm now. "I won't let them," she said. "And I won't let them take you either." He smiled faintly, then said, "From the moment you said my name in that cold room, I've been yours." She blushed, but didn't look away. "And I was always yours, even before I knew it." As the star stretched in front of them, they both knew there was no going back. The files, the truth, the child Lyra might one day carry. All of it had changed everything. Now, they had a mission bigger than survival. They had to protect a legacy not yet born, a legacy written in her blood, and guarded by the one human who had never treated her like a joke. The stars outside the window looked peaceful, but inside the ship, Rian and Lyra both knew the storm was coming. They had uncovered the secrets of Gem Prime, unlocked Project Seedline, and escaped the Vault of Echoes. But now, the Royal Empire had declared them enemies, not just for stealing information, but for what Lyra had become. She was no longer seen as a joke or a pet. She was the key to the future. And the Empire wanted her back, live or dead. "They're broadcasting a message to all systems," Rian said. His eyes locked on the screen. He pressed play, and the voice of Princess Vale filled the cockpit. This human has stolen royal property and corrupted it, she declared. The subject known as ZKO-197 must be returned to us immediately. All who protect her will be punished without mercy. Lyra stared at the screen, then whispered. She still thinks I belong to her. No, Rian replied. She knows she lost Yuan, now she wants revenge. The message ended with a final threat. If they do not surrender within 3 days, Earth will be punished. Rian's blood ran cold. She's threatening your home, Lyra said. Shocked, he nodded. FISTS clenched. She's using Earth as bait, trying to force our hand. They both sat in silence. Then Lyra stood, her voice soft but steady. Then I'll go, she said. I'll surrender myself to save your people. Rian jumped to his feet. No, he said sharply. I won't let you do that. They'll destroy Earth if I don't, she said. And I can't let that happen, not after everything you've done for me. You're not a weapon, Lyra, he said, his voice shaking. You're not some tool to trade for safety. Tears filled her eyes. But I carry something powerful. Rian, she said, if they capture me, they won't kill me, they'll use me. He turned away, struggling to stay calm. Then he whispered, if they take you, I won't survive. Lyra stepped forward, placing her hand on his chest. Her voice was low, trembling but full of emotion. Then we find another way, she said. But if it comes to it, I choose your world, not mine. Rian pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. I don't want to lose you. He said, you won't, she replied. Not while I can still stand. The next morning, they left the neutral zone and headed for Earth's moon. A hidden base was buried there, one of Earth's last defense stations. There, they could broadcast the truth across the stars, not just the royal lies, but the full story. The hidden files, the genetic truth of Project Seedline. They arrived just before the deadline. Soldiers led them to the main chamber, where Earth's leaders waited behind glass walls. Some stared at Lyra with awe, others with suspicion. She's part alien, one man said. She's also part human, Rian answered, and maybe the best of both. Lyra stepped forward, her voice clear. You gave up on Gem Prime, she said, but I survived. You erased the records, but I lived through them, and now I'm choosing to stand here. Not as a weapon, but as someone who wants peace. The room went quiet. Then the lead council member leaned forward and asked, why should Earth protect you? Lyra looked him in the eye. Because your future may grow inside me, she said. A future that belongs to both our kinds. Gasps filled the room. Whispers started. Rian stepped beside her. She carries stabilized hybrid DNA, he said, and if she ever chooses to have a child, it will be the first of its kind. But that's her choice, he added, not yours, not the Empire's. The council went silent again, then nodded. Begin the broadcast, they said. We'll let the galaxy hear it all. That night, the truth spread across every known system. Data files, voice logs, holograms sent out. Lyra's voice echoed on every channel, telling the story of how she was gifted like an object, how she was hunted, how she was freed. People everywhere started to speak out. Alien scientists, old Earth whistleblowers, soldiers who had seen Gen Prime's dark side, and for the first time, the Empire didn't control the story. But Vale didn't wait. Her ships appeared above Earth's moon, just as the broadcast ended. A final warning flashed on the screen. Last chance. Surrender the subject or burn. Rian stood beside Lyra as the alert rang out. We have minutes, he said. Lyra turned to him. Then it's time, she said. For what? He asked, confused. For a vow, she whispered. She reached into her coat and pulled out a small silver band, something Rian had given her days ago without thinking. A simple ring, once a joke, now a promise. I vow to stay with you, she said, placing it on his finger. No matter what they do. Rian felt his chest tighten. Then he smiled, pulled her close, and whispered, "Then I vow to protect you, no matter the cost," as the royal fleet approached and alarms filled the skies. They stood together, no longer just fugitives, but partners in purpose, bound by truth and a future that no empire could ever control. The sky above Earth's moon lit up with fire. Royal warships clashed with Earth's defenders, explosions glowing against the blackness of space. Inside the command station, Rian and Lyra stood together, calm in the storm. This was it. End of one story, and maybe the beginning of something bigger. Rian turned to Lyra, placing a communicator in her hand. "If something happens to me, get to the escape pod and run," he said. She shook her head, stepping closer. "I'm not leaving you," she whispered. "We're in this together." The station shook as another blast hit the outer wall. "Shields are dropping," the officer called out. 10 minutes until breach. Suddenly, the communication screen flashed on incoming message from Princess Vale. Her image appeared, proud and furious. "You think broadcasting your lies will protect you?" She spat. "You are thieves. Traitors, and that creature beside you is a threat to every bloodline in the galaxy." Lyra stepped forward, her face calm. "I'm not a threat," she said. "I'm a choice. You want to control me because you fear what I represent." Vale narrowed her eyes. "You represent chaos." "No," Lyra replied. "I represent evolution." Then she ended the call, turning back to Rian. "Let them come," she said. "I'm not hiding anymore." Outside, something changed. Ships from smaller alien nations began arriving one by one. They weren't part of the Empire, but they had heard the broadcast. They came not to fight, but to watch. Rian's eyes widened. "They're witnesses," he said. "If the Empire destroys us now, the whole galaxy will see it," and Princess Vale knew it too, inside her warship. She stared at the growing crowd of ships, watching silently. She was no longer in control of the story. If she attacked now, she wouldn't destroy rebels, she would make martyrs. So she sent a final message, her voice bitter. "This isn't over." She warned, "We will return, and when we do, no one will protect you." Then her ships turned, slowly retreating into the stars. The battle ended not with blood, but with truth. In the quiet that followed, Earth's leaders opened their gates for the first time. Rian and Lyra were not hunted. They were honored. News spread fast, faster than war ever could. A human and a hybrid had stood together, refused control, and survived. Weeks passed, then months, and slowly, everything began to change. Talks opened between humans and aliens. Walls started to fall. People questioned the old systems, the old hatred, the old fear, and, through it all, Lyra walked with quiet strength, not as a prisoner, not as a weapon, but as a woman who had found her name, her place. One morning, as the sun rose over Earth's oceans, she stood on a balcony in the city of New Geneva. Rian stepped beside her, holding 2 cups of tea. They sipped in silence for a while, enjoying the peace. Then Lyra placed a hand over her stomach, slowly, gently. "I need to tell you something," she said. Rian turned to her, already feeling it in his heart. "I know," he said with a soft smile. "You're carrying our future." She nodded, her eyes wet but happy. "I didn't think I was ready," she whispered. "But when I look at you, I feel like I was born for this." He took her hand, holding it tightly. "You weren't born," he said. "You were chosen by the stars, by fate, by something bigger than us both." "And our child?" she asked. He smiled. "Our child will be the bridge between worlds." Just like you. Months later, the galaxy watched, again not for war, but for something rare. An official union between a human and a hybrid, witnessed by leaders from dozens of systems. No empire could stop it. No royal command could erase it. And when their child was born, a girl with Rion's eyes and Lyra's glowing skin, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter. She was not feared, not hidden. She was celebrated. Some called her the Hopeborn. Others called her the First Light. But to Lyra and Rion, she was simply their daughter. And as they held her together under a sky filled with starlight, they knew something deeply true. This future, the one no one expected, wasn't just real. It was beautiful, born from pain, built on truth, and carried forward by love. The girl who was once gifted as a joke now carried the legacy of 2 galaxies in her arms. And the man who accepted her when no one else would had become the father of a new age. Together, they proved that the future doesn't belong to bloodlines, thrones, or power. It belongs to those brave enough to believe in each other, and this was only the beginning.